joining us for Next Level Live. I have some very special guests here today. I got my buddy Jeremy Thornton from Americo. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Shawn.
That is not his hat. We'll explain what that is in a minute. Y'all know Bobby Bridges. That was good. I'm just saying, usually do something off the wall, so I appreciate that.
I'll keep it professional.
Andrew Costas.
Hey everyone.
So really, we had a great meeting this week. Had you guys in here for a couple days, and obviously there's some new things I know we discussed them at convention. But as far as products, and we had a good group in here, so go out and release that and talk about what we can do to serve the clients. And we were going to have John Wetmore join us here and provide some amazing training. But Jeremy, we ran a contest. I say this all the time, very appreciative when people do anything that people do that they have to do. You know, it's like somebody holds the door and you're like, thank you for, listen, I appreciate it, but it's like, you want me to slam in your face? You know what I mean? Like, really, like, that was so nice of him. Like, he held the door, you know? I mean, like, what did you want him to do? You know? And you guys, we had a great structure, great product line, pay the agents well, 8%. You know, those checks probably being received right as we speak, or this afternoon. If you haven't checked your mail, go check it. If you don't have your check and you don't know why, call Bobby, you know, or email him. So he's in charge of making sure all the checks go out. What was the total amount in 8% checks that went out to the agent at Family First Life?
$502,000.
So didn't we say we want to do $1 million this year?
Yes.
Isn't that crazy? See how it works? It's self-fulfilling prophecy. Just we want to do $1 million and you first, 8% bonus. So a little over $500,000 paid to the Family First Life agents for the first 6 months.
Yes.
Which is powerful. You know, so thank
Absolutely.
you for that. And then Jeremy's like, he acts like he doesn't push, but he does push. He's like, hey, the app count, when do you think we get to a certain number? And I'm like, where should we get to? 1,500.
1,500.
Great. Why not 1,500? We were doing how many at the time?
We were doing just over 1,000 at the
Okay.
time.
So why not 50%? Sure. Not 1,100, not 1,050, 1,500, you know? Wait till the new contest. No, I'm just waiting for say yet. And we did this past week 1,582.
1,582.
1,582. That's with just you guys, and obviously your guys are great, but you'd like almost all of it to be with you guys, you know. But 1,582, so outstanding job. And then what we did is we said, Meaike kind of said, all right, kind of like, is it like the NBA draft or kind of not like the NBA draft?
It's just like the NBA draft, just a lot different.
There you go. See, he's good at co-host. So it's like, you know, I was telling somebody about momentum the other day, and they said, can you explain to me what you're talking about? I was like, exactly, I can tell you. Did you watch the game the other night?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll appreciate this. So Kawhi Leonard, who's unbelievable, decides, I'm going to score a bunch of points in a row, and then we're going to take a lead, okay? Mm-hmm. Then Golden State's like, we can feel this just slipping away. We're down 3-1. We're going to lose this game in Toronto. You can feel the place exploding, right? You can feel the energy, and they're on the cusp of it. There's 3.5, 4 minutes left, and they're about ready to it's over. And all of a sudden, what happened, Andrew?
They called a timeout.
And I looked at my son and I said, they should walk down the court and go, you're relieved of your duties. Because maybe you haven't been paying attention, but we're doing really good.
Yeah.
The other team is doing really bad right now. We want to keep doing really good. We want them to keep doing really bad.
Yeah.
And the guy said, what he said, why did he say he called timeout? Did you hear what he said?
I didn't hear what it said.
My players seem to be tired. Bro, your players are about ready to win a championship. Nobody's ever won in that city before. They are everything but tired, okay? But you, or, and I don't know, because I'm not deciding, or you just had to do something. You just had to be, you had to be smarter than everybody else. See, I never try to be smarter than everybody else. If it works, I do it. If somebody else wants credit, I give it to them.
Yep.
If it's going good, I change nothing. They come out, we used to basketball, I go, Coach, what you doing? We're winning by 20. Keep doing everything you're doing right now. Just whatever you're doing now, do it. Don't do what they're doing because we're beating them by 20. Do what we're doing. Y'all got it? Break. Go ahead, go. I mean, I'm not in trouble when we're winning. That's easy.
Yeah.
We're losing, so I got to make adjustments, and I have to know what I'm doing. So he calls a timeout. And then Golden State comes out and hits 4 threes in a row. Game's over, and it completely flips. Now, what I like is some of the Golden State players, when the timeout was called, looking at their bench going like, yeah, it was a good timeout, and then realizing, we didn't call timeout? You know, that's called never having been there before.
Yeah.
That's what that's called. So, these people, all the ones' names in the hat, we took every issue paid app they had for the week. They got like another shot. So, the more apps you wrote, the better shot you got. So if somebody got 12 issue paid apps, the odds are pretty good. Doesn't mean you can't get it if you want. Sometimes the NBA draft works that way where you're like, how'd they pull that one? But most of the time, statistically, it doesn't work that way. So Jeremy, if you don't mind, this and this is this hat is I'm sorry, this is our takeover hat, right? This somehow is the FFL takeover.
Yeah.
We did a bunch of shots with a lot of people with cowboy hats on. You know what I learned?
Yeah.
You know what I learned about that? I look really bad in one. So I'm good. That's the first time the picture I have would be good. I probably won't wear one again. Some people look really good
Yep.
on TV. I'm like, God, that dude looks pretty good with that. Not me. I don't look good with it. So I'm going to ask you, Jeremy, if you don't mind
Yep.
holding it. 5,000 total from Americo, and so I won't screw it up. We do 1,000 for third place, 1,500 for second, and 2,500 bucks. We're going to try to sneak it a little bit higher
Exactly.
for first place. So the first one I pull out is going to be $1,000 winner. Okay. Trying to get one that I think is not looking. I can't see. All right, so winner of $1,000 in third place, John DeVries. Well deserving.
Nice.
You ever talk to John DeVries, Andrew?
Absolutely. He's
Yeah.
fantastic.
He is fantastic. He will call you on Sunday.
Yes,
He will call you on because he's working.
He will.
He is a
He
machine.
called me on a Saturday and went out that afternoon and wrote 6 apps. Just on a Saturday. He's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's a sales machine, helping families out. So, all right, so $1,000 to you, John. Now for the 1,500. I keep thinking it's the string, Jeremy. Okay, 1,500. Stevie Goinian, am I pronouncing that right? Gagnon, she's awesome. You ever talked to her?
Uh-huh.
Selling machine, same thing, helping people. So those are your second and third.
She's a fan of Journey, so we have something in common.
Always has to happen.
Yeah,
Have you
always.
ever Have you ever sang Journey?
Here.
Not here.
But she's a fan of people that can actually sing like that.
Bobby, you brought it up.
Bobby, come
Go
on.
ahead, give us some.
Justice. Let's
Go
continue.
ahead,
Go,
Bobby.
let's do it.
Working hard to get.
See, he wants to so bad. He's like,
I
he's
did the
dying.
mics
No,
around,
I really don't want it.
it's-
I
It's
thought
probably
our-
the acoustics
I
in
thought
here.
our goal was to get people to want to continue to write business.
Well, they
with us,
are.
Not
They're
to drive
gonna,
them away.
they're gonna, whatever we can do to help Bobby get whatever he needs to sing better. And our $2,500 winner. Jeremy, get that string out of my way. Okay, keep yanking it. All right, maybe that. All right, our $2,500 winner, Jack Yu.
Yes.
Everybody knows Jack Yu. So,
Love it.
great job to all of you guys. Outstanding work. Thank you for all you've done. You know, Jeremy, we've always, and people have said to me, man, you tell me that I should write Americo a lot. Yeah, they're the best products.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, like, we have great products. I'm just saying, when you look at all the benefits and what you have, and some that don't offer all the benefits that are packaged up, service is outstanding, and certainly we appreciate what you guys do. And then also, you also are willing to put a bonus out and pay everybody more.
Yeah.
So, you know, with that, it's like, how do we lose? You know, so Jeremy, if you'd like to go ahead and just share a few things, we have a lot of people listening, so it's going
Yeah.
good.
Awesome.
My
It
buddy,
is.
my coaches tell me it's going good. Don't screw it up. I'm like, all right, got it.
Then don't let me talk.
Yeah, right.
No, it's obviously it's going well. We appreciate everything, Shawn, that you and your team do, and more importantly, the agents out in the field. Congratulations to all our winners that we just announced today. So, Shawn, you mentioned that we have great products. Obviously, service is something we take a great deal of pride in, but our products are going to get better.
Like
We have
that.
some great things that we're introducing that everybody will see here in the next couple of weeks. So be looking out for that, something that's gonna help you make more money, make more sales, do what's best for you and what's best for your prospects. So we're extremely excited about that. But like you said when we started, Shawn, during this session, you know, you have to set goals. If you don't set a goal, you're never gonna get there. And you and I talking, you know, a few months back saying, hey, let's get to 1,500. And it's been a climb, you know, getting to 12, getting to 13, 14, and then I was very pleased to be able to send you a text on Monday and say, hey, 1,582, unbelievable job. So, thanks
and
again.
I think, you know, Jeremy, we're growing at a rate where, I mean, going to 2,000, 2,500 apps a week is, I don't want to say it's not a big deal. I don't mean to minimize the accomplishment. I mean, we just have so many people out there. You know, I think we're at a very interesting time. We're getting a lot of people that have never thought about the business, the industry before, and something's attracting them to it. You know, it might be current situations, might be what's going on. I mean, there's so many things going on nowadays that got folks thinking, I'd like to control my own situation. And I think we've done a really good job with this part-time, full-time getting agents moving and getting them paid. It's one of the things we always kind of pride ourselves on. Our goal was never to contract, you know, 100,000 and have them not get paid. That doesn't work for anybody. So, but I appreciate everything you do. Bobby, you have something you want to share?
I do.
Go ahead.
I do. I mean, I'm a numbers guy. So 2017, the first quarter, FFL was averaging issuing $1 million a month. In the first quarter of 2017, 2018, that trend was right at 2. Okay, and in 2019, this year, you're averaging 3.8. So going from $1 million to 3.8 in a quarter.
Sounds so much better if it was $4 million.
Well,
1 to 2.
I agree.
how are this?
I know.
And I do have a promise that if FFL within a month, okay,
Yeah.
not counted, has to be
In a month.
in a
Yeah.
month. So
Got it. Any month.
any month, FFL issues $4 million with Americo. I will fly back up here,
Yeah. And
and Shawn Meaike will shave my
shave his head.
shave my head.
I can't wait, Jeremy. You guys look
I
so
can't
good.
either.
The 3 of you look so
We
good.
will look damn
Yeah,
good.
you guys look unbelievable.
Well,
Talk
drop
about a
back.
great contest.
It will grow. Hey, I promise you it'll grow back.
You
But
think?
I know it'll grow
They
back.
told me that a few years ago.
I got my money on yours going back. I think you're gonna be good. So.
Well, thank you for the business. You're very proudful of the numbers. It's that we have companies that have been with us since '83 that, you know, do that in a year. So I appreciate the business.
So we appreciate you guys. So thank you, Bobby. Andrew, and you can't top that because you can't shave your head.
I know. Actually, I got a haircut yesterday, not knowing if we were going to get shaved, so that I'd save you the trouble. So
Good move. Good move.
No, I just want to say I've had a blast working with you guys and excited about the future. Obviously, I mean, you know, putting up 4 million or almost 4 million in a month is incredible. When you start talking about 2,000 apps submitted in a week, that's unbelievable. So we always want to say anything we can do to continue to provide support and help. We're here to help you get to your goals. So.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think, you know, one of the things that has been just the, you know, the partnership, you know, because I've always believed, you know, Jeremy, I've said this to you many times, you know, we don't have a company unless we have, you know, carriers like you guys. And then you always understood, hey, y'all make the sales and go out and meet with the client. So it's having that mutual trust and respect, and that goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know, go out there and serve folks. You know, we get pretty passionate and emotional about what we do, and I think we should. I think that we, you know, there's so many people out there that we want to get to, you know, and what's great about our business, you know, we had a group in here this week, and they're like, man, I just can't. When you said it's not sales, I went, whatever. And then when you go out there and meet with folks that have already decided they want it, it's not sales. Like, you're just kind of taking orders and filling orders and finding the best product, best option for them, and making sure they're eligible. Mm-hmm. And so I think, and that's part of what you'll hear. If you've not heard John Wetmore train, you're definitely in for something really good. John's really good. John's somebody who, great story with him, Andrew. He's had never really sold much of anything. And he starts us, he's like, I'm trying to get my team going. What would you do? I'm like, I'd be Hall of Fame producer, 400 grand a year. That's what I would do. He's like, all right. I mean, that was like one. He's like, all right, got it. And then before I know it, I'm like, 30 grand. Who? He's like, Mike's like, John Wetmore. He's just like, he's going to do 400 grand this year. And this year paid business. Went out there and just crushed it, built a team the entire time, and put a lot of his focus on building. And he's somebody that would be the first one to tell you that it didn't come insanely easy to him. He didn't like fall out of the sky like, I'm just the greatest salesman in the world, you know? He put the time into it, put the effort into it, changed things that need to change, got uncomfortable. So I promise you, it'll serve you. Listen, thank you for jumping on. Thank you, Americo. Thank you, John Wetmore. It's all yours, buddy.
Hey guys, John Wetmore here out of Atlanta, Georgia. Appreciate you, Shawn. Thanks for allowing me to get on and talk with everybody for a little while. I'm gonna today run through some sales stuff. Kind of got about 45 minutes. We'll chat today. I'm gonna kind of gear it towards definitely more sales stuff, new agents, helping people figure out how to. I get a lot of calls from agents really trying to figure out how to get to the next level. Maybe they're not sure what to do next. I know a lot of people don't. I don't know. They just don't know what they don't know. So we've kind of get a lot of similar calls. So I'll kind of go through some of the things that I deal with regularly. Kind of look back into some of the things I changed and learned along the way, and do our best to pass as much of the knowledge as we can. I mean, for us, we're always looking to do everything we can to help you guys get better at this thing And once you figure out how simple it can be, once you're focused on the right things, this thing gets pretty fun. Some guys figure it out pretty quick. Some take a little longer. It is what it is. I did not come into this thing setting it on fire. Took me a quick minute to figure it out. And in fact, some of y'all know the first time I got into the business, I quit after like my first dial session. I was one of those guys that made like 32 dials and got hung up on, and I gave up. So that was in 2010. Took till 2012 to get back into it. Thank God found the right people to work with. So appreciate everybody that's helped me along the way. If I name names, it might take 45 minutes because I have had a lot of help. So again, appreciate all of you. You all know who you are. Appreciate everybody. So for me, I think some of the things that I've learned along the way, as I'm talking to new agents, I think one of the things we all make as just humans, we all do this stuff, is we're very much like blame driven. We try to find some reason why we can't, and we go like this. Like I have this thing we talk about in the office. Like there's always what if, and then there's negatives associated with it. I'm going, can we do like what ifs and have positives? Can we spin the way we think? And then instead of blaming things, can we find things we could have done differently to improve? And I think if we can look at things, and I'll give you a couple examples, like people don't get on the phone because they're like, what if they yell at me? What if this happens? What if they hang up? What if they aren't interested? What if there's all these, and same in the house. What if I get in there and I don't know what I'm doing? What if I get in and it's what if and negative? It halts us. It stops people in their tracks. I'm like, what if they say yes? Why not go that route? I mean, what if they give you a check? Why can't we think what if and positive after it? And if you guys can learn as you're new to look at the positive what ifs, it'll help change the way you're thinking. Because again, at the end of the day, when we're dealing with these clients, if you guys can keep in mind, it's just another human being on the other side of the piece of paper, that the lead that was filled out, someone that has a family just like you do. And I always try to explain to new agents as we're talking, like when someone dies, man, they have stuff to deal with. Like someone's going to cry and someone's going to freak out and someone's going to have to like call a funeral home and someone's going to have to make arrangements and there's people going to have to deal with stuff. And, there's a lot of things that happen when people die. It's expensive to die and it costs money, and someone's going to have to deal with these things and deal with that aftermath. So if we can remember that and look at this thing like, hey, we're just going out there to try to help people, and understand that sure, there's going to be some barriers, if you will. You're going to get told no. You're going to have rejected. It is what it is. And certainly when you're new, especially if you think more negatively, you can deal with more negative stuff. So it's learning to understand that this thing is a process. I think is insanely important. And then again, having the right mindset on it. And again, if we can look at things again in a more positive light, and then I think secondly, and again I'll touch on it, is what could we be doing to improve the situation? Because if you have external blame, meaning whatever it is, pick something. You're all doing it. Well, I've done it, and I know everything you're doing because I was the one doing it too. But whatever it is you're blaming, whether it's the lead or the weather or the area, like I get in my area, you know what I mean, or like this ideal dial time, all this negative stuff. If we can learn to control that and take ownership of it, and just look at things and go, how could I improve? How could I get better at? What can I, and speaking of someone who's having a higher level of success, reach out and go, hey, what would you do if, or what did you do when you dealt with this? If we can have that mentality versus the lead, the client, the objection, they said this, it wasn't the ad, the paper, all these things, that you guys are stressed out about. If we can stop that was something that slowed me down early. That was one of the biggest reasons. Again, I was putting blame outward instead of inward. And when I turned it inward, things changed because now I'm in control of that. And none of us, I always tell new agents all the time, like if it's someone else's fault, if it's the lead's fault, client's fault, weather's fault, your area's fault, the time's fault, what do you need me for? I can't help you. But if it's your fault, now I'm in. Now we have something to work with because I can help change you. So if you guys will understand those two things, I think things will start to help for you for sure. I think when I look at, again, as we're starting to talk to a lot of new agents, I think I've narrowed it down to really only a few things that I think that if these three things, if all the boxes could be checked, like we got these three things down, I think you'd have a lot more success. I know you'd have a lot more success quicker. And as I'm working with agents, I'm trying to get them to really take ownership of one of these three. And for me, it boils down to leads, training, and work. And I go, it seems simple, but I need you to do our definition of that, not yours. Because if you're not having success, your definition is typically skewed. And again, all this from experience. I certainly, those of you that know how I started out, I had to make tweaks to these three areas. And so I'll touch on each of those a little bit. I think as we start getting into leads, I'll touch on each subject, and then we'll get into some in-home stuff. I think understanding having enough leads it solves a lot of the problems we're worried about. And even if you look at something, like I was telling a new guy today that he was looking at some leads, and he bought 20 leads. And I'm like, even if you're great, just 20 Facebook leads. And then, he's like, oh, I'm really spread out. I'm over here a little bit. I'm over there a little bit. I'm over here. It's hard to get to them all, whatever. And I said, listen, man, even if you're great and you book 10, you have no shot at really having a high level of success. And second, the reality is it's like you're part-time. So any money you make out of it, you should be happy because it's your part-time gig. And he goes, no, I'm full-time. He said, and I said, let's clarify. And I said, do you mean this is your full-time job or this is your only job? And he says, well, both. And I go, no, this is your only job, but it's not full-time because you're only running 10 appointments a week. So it's your only job and it happens to be part-time. So can we adjust what we're doing? And we just started having a conversation about it. And the reality was when we start breaking down how much he was working, he realized he wasn't, we go through a day and he's like, I make X amount of dials and I buy X amount of leads and I run so many appointments, and we did the math, and, he's working like 12 hours a week, 15 hours a week. We couldn't find a way to get him to 20 based on what he was running. So it's, again, I think it's going back to the leads thing. It's like, I think for him, again, he was having problems. He said he wanted help with phone script. He wanted help with scheduling better, like how to schedule him more efficiently because he's all over the place. And having a better ratio, if you will. And I explained, I was like, the solution to that is actually more leads. And I think when we're newer, we think that more leads just means more of the same problem. But for instance, the example of I'm spread out and I'm in, this area, wherever I am. And I said, all right, we're going to pretend you live right in the middle. And you got north, south, west, east. I might be doing it backwards. But we start looking at them, say you get 2 over here, 3 over there, 5 over here, 6 over here, whatever it is, leads. I said, if you had 60 leads or 80 leads, well, now you'd have 8 up here, 12 down here, 25 over here, 14. There's a lot more leads in each area. So now you can schedule a few more here a day, a few here a day. It allows you to run more in each area if you actually have more leads. And one of the things I've been talking to people about as well is kind of we look at risk, like people are afraid to risk their money, if you will. And we're starting to look at it and go, it's actually more risk. It's way more risk to buy 20 leads instead of, say, 80. Whatever the number is. But if, for instance, if you buy 20 leads and it's whatever it is, $300, and I always go, all right, let's say you want to make $100,000. Again, a lot of new guys coming in will be excited making $100,000. I was the same way early. And if we look at how to make $100,000 on X amount of lead flow, if you have 20 leads, and let's just say you make $500 a sale deposit, right? We use pretty conservative numbers. For you to net $2,000, you have to make 5 sales, right? Get you $2,500 in deposits. You spend $300 on leads, you net $2,200. Okay. Now, if you have, call it 80 leads, whatever it is, 75, whatever it costs, say what $1,000 worth of leads, right? It gives you 70 leads or whatever the number is. And for you to make the same $2,000, now all you have to do is make 6 sales. So $500, it's $3,000 deposited, right? $500, 6 sales, $3,000. And you spend 1,000 in leads, you net $2,000. So either way, you're netting 100 grand. In the first scenario, you actually have to close 5 out of 20 leads purchased. The second scenario, you only have to close 6 out of 80, 70, whatever $1,000 worth of leads is. And so in scenario 1, you literally have to close 25% of the leads you're buying. In scenario 2, you have to close it's like 10%, if that, 8%, whatever the number is. It's less than 10% of them, and you're netting still the same 100 grand. So clearly, there's more risk in buying lower leads. And I understand maybe everybody can't start there right away, but we can build up to it pretty quickly. Even if you have to start with a few $100, if I think one of the mistakes agents make is they spend a few $100, they make some money, and they immediately go pay their bills. And then if there's anything left, then they buy leads, or they struggle and don't have money for leads. And I think if we could learn to spend a few $100, even if we low end make $1,000, and again, there's a million different scenarios or new agents out there, situations where they're making $300, $2, $3, $4, $5,000. But I'm going to be trying to be really conservative for you guys, so everything seems very achievable. You spend a few $100, you make 1,000. If you would, instead of spending that 1,000 on stuff, bill, and we got bills to pay, but like live on ramen noodles for another week, 3 days. Like you can flip money so fast in this thing. If you would just take that $1,000 and go buy leads and turn it into a few grand, now you never have a lead or a money problem again. And all you had to do was sacrifice that week of figuring it out. You know what I mean? If you're in a situation. The issue with most new agents is they do that $300, make $1,000, spend it, scrounge money for leads, and they drag that over and over and over and over and over again. They repeat that cycle instead of just flipping the money a couple times, like going all in a couple times, and then you don't have to deal with that cycle anymore. And now it becomes easy because, again, you start running, and we talk about like kind of thirds, if you will. If you book a third and close a third, you get 90 leads, you book a third of them, it's 30 appointments, and you close a third of those, it's 10 sales. I mean, $1,000, $1,200 on leads is getting you, even worst case, deposited after everything's said and done, cancels, chargebacks, whatever. A couple, guaranteed graded policies. I mean, you put $5,000 in your account minimum. And again, as you start to build this thing, get renewals and back in money and understand it, you're taking $1,000 a week and turn it into $10,000. So I think it's knowing how to buy leads, how to manage leads, how to work leads. So we get into working them. I'll get into a little bit about phones here in a minute. But what I really want to touch on next is really the importance of training. And obviously you guys are on here, so it's awesome. So not necessarily talking to you guys, but I think even if you're on this, it's like how serious do you take trainings? Like how intentional are you about gaining knowledge? We were interviewing Grayson in the Atlanta office the other day. Many of y'all probably heard of him, seen him on Leaderboard. He's been with us since mid-February or so, and he's issued already $200,000 for the year. And he had no experience before. He just got licensed like the end of January. And one of the things we were asking him how he got started, and he's done some trainings on here. He's done the TNL recently, so you may have seen it. But his deal is he went back to the beginning of 2018 and watched every podcast, every training we've done. And there's several a week between, all the different podcasts, TNL and Inside the Sale and True Talk, all that stuff. He's talking several podcasts a week over the course of a year and a half. This guy's watched a couple hundred trainings in a few weeks, 6 weeks. He takes, I think when people look at training, I think people passively watch training. I think that they get on a training call and they eat dinner, or they get on a training call and they like vacuum their living room, you know what I mean? Or they're watching a game, or they're not actively training. And for me, I always try to get people to understand if when you're going through these trainings, if you could be more intentional about like taking notes and finding things to implement, and finding things to change, finding holes in what you do. And it's like anything. I was talking to another agent the other day. She's a teacher. She just started with us. She was a teacher. And I asked her how many training calls a week she gets on. And she said, she goes, I try to get on. And I said, okay, so not many. She said, no. And I said, okay, well, no offense. Why do you expect to be good at this? And I waited. And there was really no answer. She had just started. She'd been in the field a couple of weeks. She hasn't gotten any training. She hasn't watched any videos. She didn't prepare at all. I'm like, no offense, what could you be good at without some sort of trying to get better? And you don't have to be phenomenal at this thing day one to go out and make money. You just have to be able to have a conversation. But that doesn't mean we avoid training and getting better and being intentional about it. Again, you could watch, heck, even if you worked a full-time job, 8 hours, and you slept 8 hours a day, you could spend 8 hours training a day at the beginning. For like 3 days, and probably have more training than most of you have done in the course of weeks or months. So I think just take it more seriously there, the training. And again, like anything, if I don't know, her original call was, I'm not having success. And I think she said like 40 leads. And she started out saying I called like 2/3 of them. And it's like, why didn't you even call them all? She was like, I don't know. Just there was no reason, you know what I mean? And I remember doing it. And we trick ourselves into lack of action, if you will, for whatever reason, a million excuses. It's that excuse-driven thing. And I think she was a teacher, so I started asking her, I was like, listen, if you had one of your students, she teaches math, and I was like, if you had one of your students that failed in math, right? They were struggling in math, not getting good grades, and they weren't doing any homework, they weren't studying like you told them to study, and they weren't paying attention in class, what would you tell them? And she went on for a few minutes about what she would do to tell the parents, what she would say to them, what her expectations would be. And, you can't be good at math if you don't study. And here's what, why aren't you doing all these things? And I said, can you please tell yourself that? Can we learn to judge? Again, it's for me, I'm going like, everybody's so quick to judge results. We're always judging our results. I'm not having success. I didn't make a sale. They hung up on me. They didn't answer. It's worse. We're very judgmental of results. And if you guys can learn to shift it and learn to judge your activities and your actions as much as you're judging your results with as much scrutiny, like be mad you didn't train. You should be ticked at yourself that you slept in when you shouldn't have, that you didn't dial leads enough, that you didn't take it as serious, that you didn't, that you aren't actively trying to get better, that you didn't be mad you didn't make $300 today. Be mad you didn't book 15 appointments today. Be pissed you didn't run 30 appointments this week. If you can learn to judge that, your own actions, man, things change quick, instead of being so critical of the result. Again, that's easy to do. It's so easy to judge the result. It's kind of a cop-out. So focus on that, look at what you're doing there. In terms of leads, I'll get into dialing leads a little bit. I'm not really going to go with phone script. There's a million phone scripts out there. They're all great. You can get them anywhere. I think where people struggle is phone scripts irrelevant if you don't dial properly. And for me, it's dialing enough, knowing how to dial, how frequently to dial, what not to do when you're dialing. And, I think if I've tried to explain this before, like if this thing had a timer on it, and every time you hit the green button to dial, it started timing. And when you do your script, it's timing. As soon as you hang up, the timer turns off. Does that make sense? And again, this is our full-time job, right? It's not our only job, it's our full-time job. If you could commit to making that timer go 8 hours on a dial day, like minimum, like not take 8 hours to make $150, but to truly physically dial your phone like it was on a timer, and it had to hit 8 hours of physically talking to people, ringing. Does that make sense? Like actually dialing. Things would change quick for you. And so for me, we have kind of a threshold, a minimum, if you will. It's like you should be making about $60 an hour. If you're making 20, you're way off. If you go, I made 58, that's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like nobody's mad. If you make more, great. But I think the problem is if you look at the course of a day and how many dials you make, and again, dials don't matter if you're booking enough appointments, right? So this is to those of you that say, I don't have enough appointments. The problem is the lead, the weather, the area, whatever it is. I challenge you to go back and look at how many physical minutes you're on this thing. How many minutes of the day, how many hours of the day are you actually speaking to people and physically dialing the phone? And again, let's go back to this teacher. We start looking at, I think it was 40 leads. And again, she dialed 2/3 of them. So she dialed 30 and she dialed all of them once. Many times when I'm talking to new agents, they dial them once or twice, or maybe 3 times. Or I get a couple that are like, yeah, I triple dialed them. Well, how many times did you triple dial them? They're like, what do you mean? I did once, maybe once today, once in the morning, once next week, once in the afternoon. I get all different answers. And I was doing a call with Twardowski not too long ago. And we were talking back and forth about it. And I don't remember if he was explaining it to someone else. I forget how the conversation came up. But ultimately, what we've really started doing is explaining like how he's willing to dial people. And what we start to do is go like, and some of this we stole from Dom even, where if you take like this lady, I told her to take her 40 leads, split into 2 stacks of 20. It allows you to get to a lot more people in a short period of time. And if you take your first lead, you dial it 3 times in a row, they don't answer. You flip the lead, you dial it 3 times in a row, they don't answer. And you go through your 20, like fast, right? 3 times, with no breaks. Like just hang up and dial the next one. You don't have to analyze the lead. We don't have to massage the lead. We don't have to manipulate it. We don't have to play with it, flip it, look at it, assume all this stuff about them based on anything. There's all this judgment. Again, I've done it. I've looked at leads and I've tried to figure it out, what I could write them and what could be. And we just dial, just get it out of the way. And if you could go through it 3 times in a row and you take your 20 leads and you do that, that'll take you about an hour, right? $60. And maybe half don't even answer, right? So we got 10 that answered, maybe you book 3 or 4 or 5. So be it, right? You take those 10 that didn't answer and you flip it over and you do it again. Like an hour later. So you started at 8, you did that $60, it's now 9 a.m. Right? So in the first hour of the day, you got $60 and you book 3 or 4 or 5 appointments. We'll go on the low end and say there's only 3. And you take those other 10 leads and you dial them all 3 times in a row again. Right? Again, 9 o'clock. Now you only got 10 leads. It's whatever, 30. It takes you 30 more minutes. Okay? And maybe you book 1 or 2 more. Now we got 4 or 5 appointments. And then you got, 5 leads left. Or however many leads are left. You flip it over and you do it again. Does that make sense? So now, and then again, you only got 5, 6, 7, 8 leads you haven't got a hold of, whatever the number is. The biggest thing we get is I couldn't get many on the phone. I'm like, it's because you're just not dialing them enough. I like to use crazy examples. If this were like some kind of like contest, like Survivor or Big Brother, one of those shows you guys watch, and it was a contest to see how many dials can you make in an 8-hour period while the camera's on you and you can't, whatever, and you win something. You win $1,000 or whatever you want to win, 10 grand, name it. If it became a competition on one of your favorite shows, we would lose the emotion and we would just try to win the competition. And we wouldn't care what they said because we're trying to win. And I think if we can start to look at it like this, again, it'll allow you to have some more level of success. So again, do that. Now you're in an hour and a half, you got 5, 6, 7, 8 appointments, whatever it is. You take the next stack of 20, you do that again. You go through that 3 times in a row. And then you put them all, and again, now keep in mind that first 20, within an hour and a half, 2 hours, I've called them 3 times, right? Triple dialed them 3 times. We got 9 calls to one person before 10 a.m. And if you do that with multiple stacks, right? So then from 10 to whatever, 11, now I'm starting with the next stack of 20. And I narrow it down. I call the next, I booked 3 or 4 more. I call the next 10 or 15. I book 2 or 3 more. And I just keep doing that. And then the ones that I haven't reached still, I merge the stacks and make a new stack and do it again. Triple dial, triple dial, triple dial. And it's like, and we started going through that with Zach. And it was like, if you do that several times throughout the day, that triple dial 3 times, you're calling some people up to 27 times in a day. And I asked him, I was like, how often do you actually have to call someone 27 times in a day? He says, never, but I'm willing to, because he's always booked up, because he goes at it at the right pace, right? There's no shortcuts. There's no messing with stuff, social media, all this other stuff that we do in the middle. So again, I think knowing how to dial is big, and doing it the right way. And of course you have to have the right lead flow, like we talked about, to be able to do it. Trainings we touched on, phones. Again, I think phones, just the way we approach them that way, will eliminate the worry about how to overcome every objection known to man. It's like, we're going to get objections. Watch, there's 1 million live downloads on Facebook. Watch them. Zach Luffles has been awesome posting some lately in our group. And he posts them all. The ones he gets hung up on, the ones he books, the ones he doesn't. He just posts them all. And it's part of it. Certainly there's strategy to it. You don't not try to book it. But again, most of us that are struggling, worried about what to say on the phone, that's just really like the excuse, because we're trying to like book as many possible out of as few dials as possible. And if you can change your thought process and be willing to dial as much as possible, we aren't so stressed out about that. And you'll realize the percentage that say no and say all these crazy things aren't very big. She's like, again, this teacher's like, they all said this. Like, what, like all 3? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't really talk to that many people. She's like, well, yeah, you got a point. But scale, I understand, because it was the percentage. She's just such a small work with such a small amount of conversations or dials. So I think change the way you do it there. So I think for me, again, that touch on leads, training, taking seriously, working the phones, I think is there. I'll get into a little bit. I had a question yesterday about some field stuff, scheduling. I think, again, leads kind of solve that into where to run. But this guy I don't know why I'm just going to happen to answer it. We're talking about, he said somebody called to cancel when he was in the field. And I said, yeah, I didn't answer my phone in the field. And his deal was, well, I have Facebook leads that calling me, and so I'm booking a lot of them. So I answer because I think it might be a client. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, so if I happen to do that, I'm like, I've never dealt with that because I just didn't answer them. But if I was in the field and someone called, this is just, I guess, thinking quick. It's nothing crazy. And it was like, hey, this is Bob. You have to see me at 12. And I'm trying to cancel. I would just go like, hello, can you hear me? Hello. And I would hang up. And then when he called back, I'd send him the voicemail and I'd show up to the appointment. He was like, oh, that's simple, huh? It's like, yeah, it's no big, just who cares? Just move past things sometimes. I'm going to touch on a little bit of, let's see, we got about 20 minutes. I'm going to touch on some in-home stuff. I think what I like, I think for me, in-home stuff, again, same thought process happens here. I think a lot of people are trying to solve every objection, overcome everything with limited appointments, which is hard. I always laugh and I go, dude, Shawn Meaike wouldn't make any money running 5 appointments a week, right? Now he'd make some money, but he wouldn't make the money he needed to make. It's like, we're not that good. And certainly you can become better. Your skill set can improve. But I think there's a few things that when it comes to clients, I think new agents, I think at the beginning, they tend to, I'd say, believe a lot of the objections. We always laugh, like in the office. I think that when they fill out a lead, it comes with like a playbook, right? And it's just a 1-page playbook. It's the most simple playbook ever. And it's like how to beat the new agent. And there's like, I want to think about it, or I didn't fill that out, or I don't know what you're talking about. Then there's like the 4 or 5 basic objections we all get. And the funny thing is once you do this for a little while, you start to understand, like, they don't have a real deep playbook. They just have like the 4 or 5 basics we're all trained to say. And if you can learn through questions, I think questions is key here. If we can learn that through questions, it'll get rid of those objections. Like if you talk to a lot of, guys that are producing a lot more volume, a lot of them will say, like, I don't get that objection a lot. And it's weird. Like, I didn't believe that at first when I was newer. But you learn to start asking questions in a way that eliminate objections. Like, everybody's so concerned about how do I overcome them? And I think that's fine too. You should learn how to overcome objections and work them. And, there's a ton of trainings out there that show that kind of stuff. Again, but the ideal situation is learning to prevent them. If we can prevent issues, does that make sense? Things get better. It's like, I don't know, how do I get through the woods that are full of landmines? It's like, I don't know, why don't you just go a different route? You can walk that way and there's no landmines. Like, that's easier, and we end up walking into them just because, again, we don't know any better. So I think if you can focus on the questions and understand, again, these clients, they're just people that want help with their families. But at the same time, they have this fear, one, they're procrastinators by nature. So they're going to do anything they can to procrastinate if you allow them. If you don't take control and set expectations and be real clear about why you're there, it's easy for them to throw objections at you. So I think it starts there. And again, understanding if you realize why you're there, like when someone goes, they weren't interested. It's like, they wouldn't have gone through the process of filling this thing out and letting you come over and letting you in their kitchen and all this stuff if they didn't have some interest. So you've got to forget that part. If you can not buy into that, it helps. It like, if you truly believe some of these people don't want insurance versus someone like myself or anybody that's been producing for a while, we are 100% sure they need insurance, you'll naturally speak to them different, right? Like if you're not 100% sure and convicted as I am that they need help, you're not going to speak by nature. Your words are going to be more timid. You're going to be more fearful. You're going to speak differently. You know, like you'll say things like, well, if you find something, sir, today that you might like, versus here's what we're going to do today. You know, it's much more direct. So it's learning how to do that. But I'm gonna touch a little bit on some in-home stuff. I went a few months ago and I ran some Facebook leads just for fun. You know, I was trying to help a lot of people and I hadn't run them myself yet. So I was like, you know what, let me get out there and see what people are dealing with. And again, I understand the demographics, so I wasn't worried or confused there. But I had a couple guys like, well, you don't know. Like, all right, well, now I know. I ran a bunch of them, and it was the easiest way I've ever had to print money in this business. So for me, if we're buying enough of them, we're scheduling them right, we're seeing people. For me, I like to schedule them, for me, on the hour, every hour. I think one of the things that people make a mistake on is they schedule in a way that they expect to like sit the client for an hour, write 3 applications, sit down, have lunch and coffee and hang. Like they expect, they book in this like everything's going to go perfect kind of way. And as you start to learn this business, the better way to book is almost to, and I don't want to think negatively in any way, but I want to book and account for the things that are going to happen. You're going to get no-showed and rescheduled, and just things happen. You're going to miss sales, and someone's not going to be there. The spouse isn't going to be there. They're not going to like you, and they're going to kick you up. Whatever's going to happen, the stuff happens. Like that part never goes away. Ever, 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 ever. Didn't go away when I ran. Doesn't go away for anybody running today. And you throw again. Shawn Meaike gets out there. You're still going to deal with stuff. You know, so I think most of the top producers, one of the best things they do is they account for it. And so for me, scheduling on the hour, every hour, accounts for that. And I'll even overbook some there. So when I was running them, I was running like 8 or 10 appointments a day, Facebook leads only. And I was done by like 4 o'clock. Just because again, I'm out there at 7:30, 8 in the morning on the first one. And I got them 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, you know what I mean? On the hour. And I might have a couple with a couple hour window. I might stack some on top of each other, whatever I got to do. Because again, if I'm not making a sale or I need to get out of there, at least I have somewhere to go. Last thing I want to do is be out there in the field and not have somewhere to go. So I think scheduling the right way helps, provides a lot of momentum, and something's bound to go right if you have 20 appointments in 2 days. You can't go wrong there. So for me, I'll kind of touch on how I approach. I'm simple. I'm serious as much as I might be analytical with numbers and stuff. With this thing, it's like path of least resistance. I understand they wanted insurance. So when I'm walking up to a Facebook lead, for me, got the lead here, and I'm hey, Shawn, I'm here for an appointment. Guess you need some insurance, huh? Like right off the rip. That's how I open everyone. Guess you need some insurance, huh? Just assume they need some insurance. And like 99% of them say yes. I promise you, try it. It works. It's the simplest thing ever. Because it'd be weird if they said no. You know, so the very, 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 very rarely do I get a no on that. So they say yes. And I haven't even like barely walked through the door yet. I like to ask if they have any insurance now or not. You know, probably a decent amount of these Facebook leads say no, probably half of them anyway, don't have any. And for me, again, I'm trying to set them up to an easy path of just buying insurance. So if they say no, and I'll go down both roads. If they say no, I go, why not? Was it because of health or just you've been procrastinating? And either answer, I'm good. If it's health, I can figure it out. If it's procrastination is their answer, which is most of the time, now I can go, all right, so you finally decided to be done procrastinating, huh, Bob? What you gonna say? No. I mean, he just said the reason he needs some and the reason he hasn't bought it is because he's been procrastinating. If I can go, all right, you ready to stop procrastinating? What's the confusion now? You know what I mean? And again, it's call them trial closes, call them being assumptive, whatever you want. To me, it's just being intentional. I know what I'm there for. So why BS it in between? You know, for me, once I go that, I think for me, the next thing I really like to do, and I do this on all of them. Again, now if they said this, I'll go back. If they said, yes, I have insurance, I go, okay, so you must not have enough. How much do you have? How much are you looking for? Certainly I'll get policies out. I'll review things, see if I can improve the situation. Certainly I do all that stuff. But again, the intention is I'm trying to speak in a way that leads them right to an easy sale, and have no confusion there. So for me, one of the things I like to do in either way, yes or no, when I deal with all that stuff, the procrastination, the health stuff, for me, been the best thing is, tell me about someone, you know, or do you know anybody that recently that's died? Tell me about somebody recently that you know that's recently died. And this and these appointments, if you guys aren't asking that, like that'll lead you right to the why, right to the reason you're there. I got some of the craziest stories, some nutty stories, just again, being out there in the field a few weeks on these Facebook leads a couple months ago, and you get the real deal with life. Because everybody at that age, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, 100% of them know someone that's died. All of them do. And a lot of times that's the reason why you're there. And what it'll allow you to do is it'll give you some insight into their family. It'll give you some insight into their situation. You start learning about them. And then from there, you just kind of keep going. You know, I've had a couple situations. I went into one lady's house and I go in and she's maybe mid 60s. I go in and there was, I try to be very aware of what's going on in the house. And I go in and there's like the little high chair where the baby eats, like a baby eats. And there was some kid stuff, like a little backpack and some toys. Yeah, she was 60 something. So I was like, hey, you watch the grandkids a lot? And she goes, no, I have custody of my grandkids. They live here. I was like, really? And we start talking and going back and forth. I'm asking about people that have died recently. And we kind of get into some conversation and find out that her daughter was murdered. Right. So now she has custody. And crazy enough, so I said, do you mind me asking what happened? And she said, yeah, the kid's dad, they had broken up and it was a jealous thing. And he was out in the driveway and they got in a fight and he shot her in the driveway, like in her driveway. And now she has custody of like a year, like a 9 month, 10 month, under a year baby. There were 2 or 3 others. There was a teenager. It was like four kids. And then, so we had that story that happened. And then in the same house, she went and got the other daughter, brought the daughter out, and she was getting some insurance, started talking to her. And hers was in prison because of some very similar stuff. It's like, it's crazy what you learn. And now they had this fear, right? Because the daughter that had died, that had got murdered, didn't have any insurance. And the one that killed her killed himself. So he didn't have any insurance. So then we talked about how it played out, how it hurt their family. And now the grandkids are in a situation to where this lady's living on her Social Security, and because they're minors, they get Social Security as well. So that's all the income they have is Social Security. And this lady's 65 years old on disability, and just, you know what I mean? She's like, I wish we had more. Crazy enough, I go in there, she had like 4 or 5 policies already. I was like, why do you know what I mean? I just started asking questions, and I said, how much are you looking for? She goes, there's not a number that's big enough. I'm just trying to buy as much as I can afford. And she got more coverage on it. I sold a couple policies in that house. Again, very similar situation. So I think for me, those few setup questions are key. Outside of that, now it's just kind of helping them, again, walk through the process. So for me, all right, here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to go through, if I haven't already, I'm going to go through some health questions with you guys. I'm going to show you a couple options. You're going to pick one. We're going to do, and I kind of point to my iPad, and I keep this on. Okay, we get this little iPad they send me with, and I plug all your information in here, and electronically within 5 or 10 minutes, we'll have your policy approved, and you'll be covered today. Is that okay? And it's just very assumptive. We go right through it, and you shouldn't be in a house 5 or 10 minutes getting to this point where you understand why you're there. They've acknowledged it. You've explained what's going to happen. You've certainly got some information on why and what's happened and all these things, and you can move forward. Now in a situation where maybe it isn't that drastic, again, still they know somebody. I like to ask if that person had insurance or not. And either way, I work with it. If they did not have insurance, I talk about how it's affected them negatively, how they raised the money, who paid for it, how it hurt them, things like that. Like, what effects did it have? And if they did have insurance, then I talk to them about what they didn't have to deal with. And I go, I'm sure you've seen people doing GoFundMe's and raising money at church and all these things. Thank God you guys didn't have to do that. I assume that's why we're here today, to make sure that your family is taken care of the same way. I mean, it's a very, again, yes or no, it's very intentional questions. No matter what the answer, I can work with it. And I think if you guys would be creating, again, every top producer has this intentionality. If you guys would be more intentional there in the beginning, like do all the work, and that's how you can get to a point where you're running an appointment on the hour every hour, because you don't need to be in a house for 47 minutes before you find out if they need insurance or not. You know, I think it's crazy. Like, I think early on, I thought building rapport meant I had to talk a lot. Like I had to spend a lot of the time talking and asking them about their cabinets neither one of us cared about, or their floors, or all this stuff. And the reality is, when you understand that you're there for insurance and you ask about their family situation, who they know that died, and then you start to dig there and just inquire about their situation. But it's their life. You know what I mean? I'm curious about what happens, how I can help. Again, this person that I'm talking to is not going to be here. Hopefully I will be when they die. And so I'm the one that's going to have to help them collect the money and follow through on the things that they want to leave behind. So at the very least, I should know what's going on. You know, I think that's, for me, crazy important in these appointments. Outside of that, I think, again, now it's just a matter of closing it up, being assumptive. Certainly for me, again, same thing. I like to, as many others, I like to show a couple price options. I'm big on top. One of the things I like to, of course, Mark's top down selling for years. I would show people the most they were eligible for. I'm like, the computer makes me show the most you're eligible for. So it's 30,000. Here's the most you can get. But certainly from there, it's, beginning conversation when I'm trying to find out how much coverage they need, what they think they need. If they've dealt with a death, I certainly ask how much it costs if they know, especially if they were the one that had to contribute and pay. I think that's a great conversation to have. And it just allows me to, again, know what we're trying to work with. Certainly I'm doing my best to pay attention to budget, but what I always like to explain to people is, don't put your thoughts on budget on them. Again, many people would have judged this lady I sat with, and she was spending, man, I wrote her like $180 a month, and I think she was already spending like $350 or something. At the end of the day, she was spending $500 or $600 a month on Social Security, on insurance. And again, all her income was Social Security. It wasn't a ton, it was a few grand with her and all the other kids and all that stuff. But she wanted to make sure they were taken care of. And again, if you look at her situation, if she could have gone back and unfortunately, the person who died, and if this person could have gone back in time and looked at all the stuff that happened to her kids and what they were going through and how they had to live because grandma was taking care of them, and their struggles. I mean, the woman was doing the best she could, but certainly there were struggles. If she could go back in time and go, you have a mulligan, you have the option to pay X, 200, 300, 400, crazy amounts a month to take away what you have to watch now. Right. And again, it wasn't intentional, but it's reality. The woman died with no insurance and this lady had to take care of the kids. But if we could go back in time and you could spend X amount a month to change their lives, to have a different outcome, would you do it? And there's no one that would answer no, especially if you got to see the disaster that happens after a death. So I always like to help people kind of visualize what would happen without, so then I can provide a solution. So now we can know what it's like with the coverage, and I think early on, many of us will get more into selling, 15 grand for $82. And over there it's 84. So we're better because we're $2 cheaper. You know what I mean? Or I'm going to shop these different carriers to save you 87 cents. And that's not value. Value with insurance is what it prevents, the things that it can take away, the hardships, things like that. So if you guys can focus on those things, hopefully some stuff here today has helped. Hopefully, you can take some things away from it and go out and implement it today and this weekend in the field and make some extra money for your family and make this thing a little bit easier for you guys. Honored again to be part of this, and thanks, Shawn, for everything you're doing and putting this together. So appreciate being a part of it. Hope you all have a great day. Go out and kill it. If I can do anything to help, let me know. See you.